A third important Judeo-Christian belief that is going to provide yet another brick we can use in the foundation upon which modern science is going to rest is this. Not only is the universe and all of its stuff ordered, stable, predictable, it's also comprehensible. We can make sense of the world that we inhabit and our experiences of it. So we go out into the world and we see a cat and we collect all of this information about this cat that exists independently of us using our sense organs. We can see it. We can pet it and touch it. We can hear it meow. We can smell it. Hopefully we don't taste it, but we can gather a bunch of information using our sense organs that then gets processed in our consciousness into an awareness of this object that exists in our world independently of us. And this is going to have some fairly important implications for a natural law theorist. One thing they're going to point at is this, is that if we can comprehend the world that exists outside of ourselves and form it into a coherent picture in our consciousness of what reality is like, then that would seem to imply that the structure of the world that we inhabit and the structure of our consciousness must have some kind of affinity. There must have some kind of a similarity that allows them to kind of talk with one another and interact with one another. Another implication of that implication, says the natural law theorist, is that would mean that human beings are not just outside of nature, they're actually part of nature. They're in nature, and they have a human nature, and there's some sort of affinity between this human nature that's in each one of us and the natural world that we inhabit. And the mediating feature here is our capacity for rationality. So maybe think back to our exploration of Immanuel Kant and his assertion that one of the fundamental defining characteristics of human beings is their capacity for reason and rationality. And natural law theorists are going to be right there with him in this regard. They're going to say, yes, there seems to be some alignment between the way that our brains and our minds are structured and our consciousness is structured and the conscious and the things that we're having the conscious experiences of. Now, a natural law theorist is going to say, you know what? That's not an accident. We have this capacity for reason because God or whatever divine being designed the universe and created it. He created us with this capacity to be able to discover the nature of nature. In other words, a part of human nature is our capacity for rationality. And that capacity for rationality is what allows us to comprehend the natural world that we are a part of. Now, of course, a challenge to this leap might come from an evolutionary biologist or evolutionary psychologist, and they might say something like, okay, perhaps it is the case that the consciousness that we have that allows us to comprehend the world we live in is something that was created by the same thing that created the natural world, and there was some sort of intention in giving us this consciousness, that is, that we could learn about the world and figure out how to live better in it. Another possibility, they might argue, is that our consciousness and its alignment with the structure of reality is the result of the same kinds of evolutionary processes that we use to describe the adaptation of animals to their environment. Maybe it's just kind of a fluke. And a natural law theorist, this is a pretty good challenge, by the way, but a natural law theorist is going to push back on that challenge a little bit, and they're going to say, okay, wait a minute. So if you're going to say that my consciousness and the orderliness of my consciousness and the orderliness of the world that I'm able to comprehend and the ability of these two orders to have this interaction are the result of natural selection, you're asking for something akin to a miracle. Because despite what a lot of people think, Darwin's principle of natural selection doesn't assert that certain features of certain species or living things, that they were somehow purposely selected or chosen because they were preferred by nature. Darwinian evolution asserts that selection is absolutely arbitrary, that there's no choice being made at all. It's just kind of a fluke. This is the way that things happen to fall down. And so a natural law theorist is going to say, the odds that our consciousness and the odds that the order of the universe developed this affinity through sheer arbitrary natural selections, those odds seem astronomically high. Instead, the natural law theorist is going to assert it seems far more reasonable, asserting something like Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation is the one that we should prefer. It seems far more sensible, reasonable to conclude that because the universe had a beginning, and because everything that has a beginning is a thing that's created, and because we are a part of the universe, whatever it was that created the universe deliberately created us to have this capacity of rationality in order to comprehend the creation that we inhabit.